This is Alexa Linton, and you're listening to the Whole Horse Podcast. I'm coming to you from the Cowichan Valley on beautiful Vancouver Island in Canada, and I'm excited to be bringing amazing instructors from around the world to share their knowledge about all the ways that we can keep ourselves and our horses well and happy, and about some of the cutting edge techniques, training, and different aspects that are coming into the horse industry and changing it from within. I'm so excited you're here, and I'm excited about the times that we live in and the shifts that are happening in the horse industry before our eyes. Let's get started. Hi everyone, Alexa here for the Whole Horse Podcast. We're here today with someone who's coming to us from across the seas in the Netherlands, and she's one of the instructors for the Whole Horse Apprenticeship and someone that I really look up to for the work she's doing in the world. She's doing unprecedented work combining training and body work and really looking at the whole horse and how they're, happy in their body and moving through in a balanced, harmonious way. So thank you, Lucie, for tuning in today and being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me again.
I
was there last year and it was really, really fun. And, because of it, I ended up in Australia.
Right? So amazing.
Yeah. Because one of the people in your webinar invited me over for a clinic in Australia, and that ended up in 3 clinics in Australia and 2 in New Zealand. So thank you.
Amazing. You are so welcome. Happy to help. I'm so grateful to have your work out in the world in a bigger way. There's just so much benefit to what you're doing. So absolutely appreciate it. I'm so glad you got to meet some of my Australian amazing horse friends. Yes, I'm missing them this year. Oh my gosh, it's been so strange not to be down there. So Lucie, before we get started, will you tell us a little bit more? I gave a tiny brief introduction, but I know you're up to so many amazing things. Will you give us a little bit more info about what you're doing in the world?
Well, I always say it's my horse Bombero that brought me to doing what I'm doing. He has several issues in his front leg, and 2 veterinarians told me at some point that I could never ride him again. And so I decided to learn everything I could to keep him as fit and healthy as possible. And I was already teaching, but because of him, I added the body work as well. And I kind of combine, the whole picture is combining 3 things, and I call it my ABC. And the A is for the academic art of riding, which helped me to help Bombero to shift his weight to the hind legs to his sore front foot. And the B is for body awareness, and that came about because when I was teaching and people asked me, my horse doesn't want to do this or that. And then I asked, well, can you show me? And then I thought, this has nothing to do with the horse.
That moment, yes. I know that.
So the body awareness is actually twofold. It is for the human.
Yes.
And it is about being aware of the effect of your body on the body of the horse. So it's about breathing, it is about alignment of your spine, it is about being aware what your position in relationship to the horse, the effect it has on the horse.
Yes.
Now we also have body awareness and release for the horses, and that is based on the Masterson Method.
Okay.
So, and then the C, so we have the A, academic art of riding, the B, body awareness for both horse and rider, and the C is for centered riding. Because, as I said, the straightness training or the academic art of riding, straightness training is basically is part of academic art of riding. Some people use it like a little bit mixed, but the source is the same. It's the old masters
Got it. Yeah.
Where they use the dressage for the horse and not for competition.
Yes.
So the B for body was the C for centered riding, because the centered riding is all about the human alignment of the spine, the soft eyes, opening of the hips. So it's really, that's why I call my clinics now balanced rider and horse.
Yes.
Working on the rider and working on the horse. And then if individually the horse is balanced, the rider is balanced, both physically and mentally, and emotionally as well, then the magic can start.
Absolutely. That's a foundation for a good partnership there. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, it's a lot of, I don't follow like one particular method. I think it's, with horses, you can't follow just one method, because every horse is different and every human is different. It's nice to have some methods in your backpack so you can take out whatever you need. But I see a lot of people that follow just one method. They get kind of tunnel vision in that particular thing.
Yes.
And which, some people want to be a specialist in something. And I am more a generalist. So I have followed a lot of different studies, and I mix it with whatever I think is needed for that particular horse and that particular rider. So sometimes I start with the rider and sometimes I start with the horse.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I really want to take one of your clinics. Whenever Lucie comes to town, I'm always busy. It's ridiculous.
I met you last time.
It's like luck, right? Oh goodness. One of these days. Wow, that sounds wonderful, Lucie. And I know as well, I also have a little bit of an envious thing going on right now, because Lucie is actually going to a clinic with equine anatomist Sharon May Davis. I think, is it this weekend?
It's tomorrow. She's in Holland. She was here last year. Last year I did my first dissection with her.
Yes.
And as a kid, I wanted to be a vet,
but
I couldn't look at blood and so it took me a long time to actually attend a dissection. So I did dissection last year, and I immediately signed up because she's coming. She's now in Holland. Tomorrow she's giving actually 3 talks about 3 different topics.
Wow.
And the weekend after, it's again a 3-day dissection.
Yes.
Which I will be attending.
Wow.
Both things. And, it's also, this has helped me so much to understand the horse better. Yeah. When you see what's going on under the skin, it is amazing what insights it gives. The horse we had on the table, for instance, was a 27-year-old horse. Yeah. And he had 17 ribs on one side, 18 ribs on the other side.
Wow.
One of the floating ribs was fused with the lumbar area.
Yes.
So, and then if the horse doesn't want to bend equally, left and right, and we say, "You stupid horse, why don't you do it?" He was not able.
Totally rigid.
Yeah. So it helped me again to listen more to the horse. If a horse is not doing something, it's not because they don't want to. It's either they don't understand you or they are physically not able.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Lucie. It's so, I really, one of the reasons why I want to do this podcast is because I feel so passionate about busting some of the myths that have existed in horses, right? And one of those tends to be like, you got to get it done, like, if the horse is giving resistance, there's this tendency to think that they're being bad or just, like stubborn. When, being a body worker as well, like I don't meet a horse that doesn't have stuff going on in their structural system. I never have. I hope to one day meet that horse, but, as adding the rider, adding the saddle, adding these dynamics, often horses are started very young. There's all these pieces, there's a lot going on. So yeah, thank you for that. Yeah. So do you know much about the horse that's happened, that you're working with this time, or is it?
No, I don't know yet.
Secret. Yeah. So for anybody that doesn't know Sharon May Davis, she's been doing some incredible studies in equine anatomy and looking at things like a very common trait in certain breeds of a fusion between the C6 and 7 vertebrae, I believe, and some other.
Well, that's one of the things she's going to talk about also tomorrow is the missing lamella of C6, C7. So if you look in the books, there you have the nuchal ligament, and you have the lamella that go to all the cervical vertebra. And in the books, you can see them all the way to C6, C7, but in the actual horse, they're not there anymore.
Interesting.
They're still there with the old breeds, like the Koenigs and the Przewalski and also the zebras. So one of the things she will show, they will actually have different skeletons also of different breeds.
Oh my God, I want to be there so badly.
Yeah, we have Savanya, the one who's inviting Sharon to Holland. She's been working with Sharon for a long time, and she has now several skeletons, also of like one of the Koenigs horses. So because of the missing lamella, they are very, very flexible in the neck.
Of course.
Right in front of the shoulder blade.
Yes.
That's why, and that's one of the things we wanted to talk about tonight.
Yeah, I was going to say this might be a very nice segue, because one of what we wanted to talk about today, what Lucie wanted to talk about, was the spine. So this is perfect. And also that false bend. Lucie was showing me this amazing photo, not photo, but an anatomical drawing in comparison of a horse that is actually in a true bend and one that is compensating through exactly that region of the lower part of the neck. Okay.
We don't know for sure, but Sharon is kind of speculating about that, the old breed, like the Przewalski and the Koenigs, they have a very short neck, a very thick neck. So they can brace very easy, and they're not very flexural. We wanted, of course, the horses with a flexible neck and easy in the hand. So it might be that we, the human, bred it out. So because of that, there's no lamella attached anymore to C6, C7. That's why you also have the malformation C6, C7. So that's the consequence of it.
Yeah. Well, and then
so I could explain now to people, if they were overbending the horse, why it is so easy to break there and why it is so important not to overbend the horse.
Absolutely. Yeah. So tell us a little bit why, we're going to talk about the spine today, Lucie. Why is the spine feeling more and more important to you to look at?
Well, the spine of the horse connects the front to the back, right? Yeah. So we want the energy from the hind leg going over the back, where the whole spine is, to the front. Now, if there's any misalignment in the spine, the energy doesn't go from the hind leg over the back to the mouth, but it's leaking somewhere. Yeah, absolutely. It's like a water hose. And if there is like a, how do you call this? Like a kink in the water hose, the water goes out. Yeah. And it's similar with the spine of the horse. If there is a kink, you cannot have the energy going
absolutely.
The other thing is, through the spine, what do we have there? What runs through the spine?
Something very important.
Yeah. Which is called the spinal cord.
It is.
And the spinal cord connects from the brain to the sacrum. And it is like it's a communication channel.
Absolutely.
The communication, like I always give the example, when I walk, I lean a little bit forward. There is a signal going from my body to my brain saying, you're going to fall.
Yeah.
Then there is a signal going from my brain to one of my limbs saying, if you pick up this limb and put it forward, you won't fall. So there's a constant communication between the brain and the limbs through these little side tracks of the spinal cord. Now, if one of two vertebrae are not aligned, you can imagine that those side tracts are kind of, how do you call it?
Impeded.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the information cannot go through to the limbs.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it is energy, it is information, and the third thing that we need is movement, space for movement.
Yes.
So that's why I believe in the combination of body work and training, because it both aims for the same thing.
Yeah.
Relaxation in the horse, balance in the horse, and space for movement between all the joints.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm kind of passionate about the spine.
Yeah, I'm sure. I am too. I love this working with the spine. Absolutely. Because I've seen both the detriment and the benefit of working with the spine as well, you know, because it's huge. I mean, I had a little horse that I worked on even, you know, probably a month ago, and he had a rigidity just behind the withers.
Yeah.
And he bucked every person off that rode him. Yeah. He just couldn't handle it. He was in so much discomfort with that lack of mobility in that area. And they asked for any kind of bend or any kind of, you know, collection or, you know, really any pressure at that area. He was like, I can't deal. And then after it shifted, he was like, okay, I can handle this. You know, like totally different horse. Yeah. Completely different. He just like literally night and day.
As a body worker, you know, also like there's three main junctions in the spine where there is the most tension. Like every horse that I meet has some kind of tension at the pole area.
Absolutely.
Where the skull
and yes. Some can barely be touched there, to be completely honest. Yeah.
And it's not only the riding part, like of course the ones that have the, you know, the over flexion and over bending, they have it. But like my horse, he like once hit his head at the top of the stable.
Absolutely.
So it's many reasons, but like almost every horse I meet has some kind of issue at the pole.
Very much so. Yeah.
And then the second one is of course where the cervical vertebra go into the thoracic. It's just behind, the lower neck, behind the shoulder blade.
Yeah.
Again, there's a lot of tension there, and also because of this missing lamella and the malformation, a lot of horses, there's a lot of movement in that area. So that's another prone area for tension.
And what they say in osteopathy is when you have a hypermobile area, you have to have a hypomobile area.
Yeah.
To compensate, right? Yeah. It's like, because the body, that's how this is how it keeps itself together, right? It's like, okay, you can be really mobile, but then you need to be rigid to kind of manage that, right? Yes. Yeah.
And the third, of course, is where the lumbar area meets the sacrum and where the pelvis is connected.
That's definitely one for sure.
And again, it's the same as us. You know, we have like neck pain, shoulder pain, and lower back pain.
Totally.
So it's So when I discovered the Masterson method, also one of the things you always start with is following the bladder meridian, and I know you do a lot with the meridians as well.
Yeah.
And it's amazing what that simple technique already can release in a horse,
isn't it?
And it's just by following the bladder meridian very gently with your hands.
Yeah.
And have you heard of the SRSR? That's from the Masterson.
I don't think so. Give me the lowdown.
It's the search, response, stay, release. So you run your hand along the bladder meridian.
Yeah. And for everybody who doesn't know, I'm going to put a picture on Lucie's webinar of the bladder meridian, but it actually runs parallel to the spine on either side. Yeah. You just put a hand with
the sacrum, and then of course it goes further down.
And then down the hind leg. Yeah.
Yeah. And only on the neck, it doesn't follow the spine, because the neck goes like in a S a little bit down. It follows the top line of the horse.
Yeah.
So the search is you softly run your hand down that bladder meridian, and you can use either 2 fingers or your whole hand, but it is the softest touch.
Yes.
With air gap, it's almost not touching.
Wow. Okay.
And in the beginning, I was, how can this help? But, I've seen too many horses now that I know it does.
Yes.
What you're doing, you're looking for the blink of the eye.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the response, so the first S is the search.
Yes.
Then you have the first R is the response, and the response is the blink of the eye. So you look at the blink of the eye, and in the beginning you think, well, that might have been a fly, or maybe the air is dry.
Yeah.
But you will find a difference between a reaction to a fly and the response to your touch.
Yeah.
And if you're not sure, you can just go back with your hand and run over the same spot again to see if the horse is blinking again. And then something's there.
Yeah.
Because horses don't want to show any discomfort. Being a prey animal, they don't want to show any discomfort.
Absolutely.
But with this soft touch, you bypass that defense mechanism because it is so soft. You go actually to the neurologic system.
Of course, you're working with the reflexes. Yeah.
So this little blink is like, oops, there's something there. Sometimes there's a little like uncontrolled movement of the head. There's a tiny like flinch.
Yeah.
And there's something there. So then the next S means stay.
Yes.
I'm going to stay and I'm going to soften. And I'm going to soften. I'm softening my whole body. I make sure my breathing is deep. I make sure that I'm grounded.
Yes.
Everything in my body softens.
Yeah.
And then wait for the second R, which is the release. And that can be anything.
Yes, it really can.
So body worker, that as well. That can be the slight trembling of the nostrils. It can be big things like yawning, like the eyeballs rolling. I see horses cry even. It's like the ear duct releases and shaking, the fidgeting, lots of things.
Absolutely.
And then you continue. You slowly. So it's SR.
I like
search,
that.
Response, stay, release.
Okay.
Yeah. And when I meet a new horse, that's often all I do. It'll take me 10 to 20 minutes, one side of the horse, and then another 10 to 20 minutes the other side. You have the bladder meridian, of course, on both sides.
Yeah.
That also shows me which parts of the spine are carrying the most tension.
Absolutely.
So in the next session, I would know what to work on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then horses that I know, like my own 2 horses, I don't do the bladder meridian anymore because I go straight into, I kind of know where they are blocked. And they also know this kind of work.
Yep.
But if horses are not used to this soft touch, it takes a lot of trust also to be able to release.
Absolutely. And I've met those horses where they're just like, nope. And they're like, the mouth that, you see the lines start coming up in the mouth, like, I'm not going to let it go. I'm just like, So I prefer also to have the horse. The stables are often too small, but I have them in a yard or in like a small paddock where if they want, I can let them go. And I was going to say.
They walk away.
Yep.
And suddenly they start yawning like 2-3 meters away. I don't follow them. I stay here and I just breathe. And then they come back for more.
I love that. Yeah. And it is so critical. I find that the movement piece is so big in terms of like allowing that space for release, right? Like that they just can move and shake things out in their body if they need to and feel the freedom of that. I mean, my preferred way of doing body work is literally without a halter or lead or anything. It's just like, them sort of going, here. Yeah.
And sometimes they even offer the body part where.
Isn't, yeah, exactly. That's one of my favorite. I have a mare that I've worked on for a while, and she did that for the first time when I worked on her, 2 sessions ago. And then I started to do some cranial work, and she put her head on my shoulder and just put her entire weight on my shoulder while I balanced up, her frontal bones and things. And it was like, yeah, I had like a little emotional moment too with that kind of depth of trust. It was just like, oh.
And that's actually also one of the Masterson moves.
Yeah.
Then you invite the horse to put their head on your shoulder or in your arm. In the elbow, like in the inside of the elbow. Because what you're doing is you're taking the weight of the head off the pole.
Yeah.
So you're carrying their head, the tension in the pole can release. But a lot of horses don't dare to give you the weight.
No. Yeah, it's very rare. Yeah. But I'm sure that you see over time that, as you build rapport and trust, that comes, hey?
Yes.
Yeah.
And my stallion, he loves it so much. He sometimes just comes to me and puts his head on my shoulder. Like, I need to rest my pole for a little bit.
Isn't it neat how they just learn what feels good, right? It's like, okay, I want to be here.
And then, of course, you have the other end of the spine, which is the tail.
Yes, please. And let's talk about the tail.
Well, you can do the same thing actually there. If you just put your hands under the tail, and some horses will immediately like clamp it.
Oh, yes.
So then, if they do that, you can start at the outside by just combing the hairs and lifting the hairs. Yeah. And then often they will relax a little bit. I slide my hand under the tail and I lift it like very gently and maybe 1 or 2 centimeters only. Yeah. Again, I look for the blink. And when they blink, that is the position that I will hold the tail.
Got it.
Again, like with the head, I take the weight off the sacrum because the tail is hanging at the sacrum. Yep. When I'm carrying the tail, there's no weight at the sacrum. The sacrum can release. The hamstrings and the glutes are attached to the sacrum, so they can release as well.
Oh, I love that. I love that imagery too of really like taking that weight, because it's sort of like with us, right? How many of us like will have a long day in verticality and gravity, and all we want to do is just like go get horizontal, right? Like we just want something to bear our weight for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
So that we can recalibrate, right?
I've had a cranio treatment, and then I was lying horizontal, and somebody had their hands under my head.
Yes.
So the weight of my head was not attached to the spine, and it gives big releases, and that's the same thing for the horse.
Well, and then, especially when we think that they're not like maybe some horses aren't lying down at all.
Yeah,
just don't get that rest.
Yeah, or horses are bred bigger and bigger. Some horses don't even have the space in their stable to lie down.
No,
to be totally like lateral flat on the floor.
Absolutely.
And they need that. Yeah.
Yeah, they really do. I love, thank you for that imagery, Lucie. That's really beautiful. Cause I hadn't even thought of that before, but now I'm going to take that into my work and have that sense of like, hey, you can rest that weight. That's, rather than just going in and like, okay, I'm going to do my thing. It's like, okay, I'm here for you. I'm supporting you. Yeah.
And that's exactly, I keep talking. I said, you can give me the weight. It's okay. You can let go. I will carry you. I will carry your head. I will carry your tail. And as I said to you before we started, I am a certified Masterson practitioner, but I don't see myself as a body worker because I don't go around treating horses. For me, it is just an additional tool in the training of the horses. So it was kind of funny, I think it was in Norway, where we were doing groundwork and the horse just did not want to let go of the head. The horse was very alert. Mm-hmm. And how they were doing it is, that's how they had been taught, is with a cavesson, pulling on the nose. Yeah. The horse was having a counter reaction, going against the pressure,
right?
And then actually tensing the lower muscles in the neck.
The good old brachiocephalicus under there getting all bulgy. Yeah.
Yes. And then I often asked, like, can I feel the horse? And the horse was so tense around the head, I couldn't invite the horse either. So what I did, I just put the rein over the neck and I went to the tail.
Yes.
I did a little work on the tail. I lifted the tail. I did a little bit of relaxation on the sacrum. And the sacrum and the pole are very much related.
We call them reciprocals. Yeah.
Yeah. So tension in the pole creates tension in the sacrum, but relaxation and release in the sacrum can also give relief.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm working on the tail, and then suddenly the horse drops the head and goes.
Yay!
People go like, oh my God, that's magic! No, it's one spine. You know, and
it's all connected.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. And yeah, you know, that thought of like, we can get creative, right? Like, you know, if that's impossible for him to let go of or feel safe letting go of there, I love that it's like, okay, like let's try the other end and see what's going on here, right? Yeah, for sure.
I just saw this really nice quote about alignment of the spine. It says, manipulating the spine opens the lines of communication and information between the brain and other parts of the body so that the remote parts can send and receive messages of movement.
Yes.
So that's the manipulation of the brain can be body work, but can also be training.
I was going to say, I mean, I've been doing, you know, some of the straightness training and things, little bits. I need more training, Lucy. Help me. I've been working with Heather, with my mare a little bit, and it's been so amazing, like watching her. Like Diva's coming 19 this year, and she looks fitter and happier than ever. Like she's just really strong in her body and really content. And you know, I think that sense of like combining those things, I'm just seeing, because many horses, you know, what happens is people are like, I gotta ride. I know that's often the mentality out here, is like the groundwork's kind of like a annoyance, you know, like if I have to, but it's like I get in the saddle, I ride. And I'm really loving the shift in thinking of like, no, the groundwork is actually building the balance, the symmetry, the strength, so that the spine can actually support the rider.
Yes.
When they get up there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's when I was in Australia and New Zealand. In Australia, I was invited, I think by somebody also who knows you, I believe, to talk about the benefits of academic groundwork for riding, because and it was for a group of horse coaches.
Yes.
Was it Anne? Sorry?
It wasn't Anne, was it?
Anne Montgomery.
It was Anne. Yeah. Okay.
No. But she was in one of my clinics.
Was she there? Okay.
She was really cool. Yeah.
She's so amazing.
Yeah,
we love you, Anne.
Really great. I loved having her. Yeah. No, it was Anita, and we had several horse coaches.
Nice.
It's kind of new. The only groundwork, and maybe that's the same in Canada, I don't know, is kind of, well, the horsemanship or cowboy style groundwork, where they do a lot of disengaging.
I was really hoping we were going to talk about this.
And the academic art of riding, we talk about engaging of the hind legs. So this I actually had a horse in New Zealand, in Auckland, in the clinic, and the horse was lame at one of the hind legs. I don't remember which one. Her vet, she had a very good vet, told her stop disengaging because it had torn the ligaments and there was a torque in the lumbar area. Because they're stepping so far under, and they're disengaging their hindquarters. It's amazing what that does to the horse. And so she came in the clinic. The horse, every time he slowed down, would immediately disengage. He would turn his hind end away, and he could not stop balanced.
No.
So that was the first thing we worked on, because of the disengaging, they're not balanced. They're horizontally and vertically not in balance, which immediately also gives a emotional stress. They often because they're out of balance.
Yes.
So, as soon as you help the horse to stay balanced, then they settle down also emotionally.
Well, and I've seen it so many times where people are like, oh my God, when I ride my horse, like they just lose their mind. And then I start working with them. I'm like, oh, they like this horse doesn't know where their body is. They don't know where their legs are. They don't feel balanced or safe. They definitely don't feel safe.
Yeah.
With the weight, with the emotional, mental, physical weight of a rider, right? Yeah. You know, because I think essentially horses do want to take care of us. So they to have a rider on when they don't feel like they can actually manage that, can be very a very stressful thing.
They are, like, as you know, the most of the weight, like 60% of the weight of the horse is on the front legs.
Yeah.
Now, if there is no rider on it, it is not a problem.
Yeah.
Because they're only grazing, and it's actually kind of helping them to automatically go to the next piece of grass.
Totally.
The moment you put a rider on top, there's more weight added to the front legs. And the front legs, they are kind of, if you see a front leg of a horse, all the joints are on top of each other.
I was going to say, they're just like straight down. Yeah.
They only have like a carrying function. The hind legs, they have all these, how do you call this?
Yeah, so like they have like almost a spring built in, right? Yes. Yeah.
So they have these, not corners, how do you call this?
Angles?
That's the word I was looking for. They have all these angles, and so the hind legs, they can carry, they can push, and they have a spring.
Yeah.
So they have a lot more possibility to carry the weight without overstraining. Mm-hmm. Whereas the front legs, because they're all on top of each other, the joints, it's easier to strain it.
Well, and not only that, but if we look at the shoulder girdle itself, I mean, it's literally a muscular sling, right? Yeah. Like it's not like a joint on a joint on a joint on a joint. It's like held together in that front end by muscle and ligaments and connective tissue.
Thing you're talking about, and but then in the legs, the joints are like stacked.
Absolutely. So there's a lot more strength possibility back there.
Sometimes people think like in the hind legs, and a horse that is not very hind legs basically push the weight on the front legs, and it's very hard for the rider to sit on it because you're riding the front legs basically.
Absolutely.
And every time you get this like bang, bang, bang. A horse that is educated, that can shift the weight to the hind legs, that uses the spring, and where you have more carry than push. You need a little bit of push.
Yeah.
But you want more carry than push. Now you're riding the hind legs, which is much more comfortable.
Absolutely.
So,
mm-hmm. For anybody that's ever ridden a horse and it feels like you're riding a sewing machine, they're probably on their front legs. Yes, for sure. And it's so much more comfortable for them. And then the spine actually, I'd love to hear, Lucie, about this idea of like an inverted spine and what that what maybe some of the implications. So, we often, refer to this as like a giraffe horse, for example, a horse that's traveling under saddle with the head way up and, the obvious tension. The back is, much more inverted than looks comfortable. What, tell us a little bit about your experience with that.
Well, the spine has, of course, the processes that go up, spinal processes. Around the withers, the processes are pointing backwards.
Yes.
And at the end, behind the saddle, the lumbar, they're pointing forward.
Yeah.
So if they have a hollow back, the tops of the spinal processes, they touch. And that's, of course, what you call the kissing spines.
The kissing spine, yeah.
So that's another reason why you need them to lift their back, so these processes basically open and again get space for movement.
Absolutely, because it is very painful when those bony processes
come together. Absolutely. And, you know, if you think deeper into the spinal cord that we talked about earlier, you know, those processes together means that there's, you know, implications for flow, you know, nerve flow back into that.
Yeah, it's all the thing again. It's the flow, the movement, and the information, all three get stuck basically.
Absolutely.
And and the other thing is that when they walk like that, it increases their adrenaline as well.
Yes.
So
we talked about that a little bit.
And then
things. Mm-hmm.
And what I see often also is that they cannot lift because the ribs are kind of stuck. Mm-hmm. The most flexible part of the spine is, of course, the tail. You know, that one goes in all directions.
Yeah.
The second part that is most flexible is the neck. And then, as we talked about, just in front of the shoulder blade, that part where there's no lamella and where it's so easy to break.
Yeah.
But the least flexible part is the trunk, is the whole thoracic part, because you have the ribs. Yeah. And like us as well, that has to do with breathing as well.
Yes.
If you don't breathe fully, the ribs cannot expand. So you have to make sure that the horse is relaxed also so they can breathe fully. Mm-hmm. We had a horse that was in Perth, and I was with the participants. I have this, you know, kind of feeling into the horse where they just put their hands on the rib cage and invite the horse to breathe. So it's a very soft touch. You let your hands melt, and then you first feel the breathing of the horse, and then you start inviting them. So you follow their breathing, and then when they expand the rib cage, you lift your hands a little bit and you invite the horse to breathe more fully. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they give a deep sigh. Sometimes they start breathing very quickly. There was this one horse, my hands just didn't move. Nothing. There was nothing. And I'm like, wow, this is weird. There's no movement. The horse was breathing. You could see the nostrils, but there was no movement in the rib cage. So I asked her about the horse, and she said it was a Brumby, which is like the wild horses in Australia. Yeah. For fun, the whole herd of this little horse had been shot when the pony was 6 months old.
Oh my God.
And actually Anne said, no wonder the horse doesn't breathe. Because like human, when a horse has experienced something very traumatic, they stop breathing. So everything gets stuck. And so we were trying to invite the horse to breathe more fully. And fortunately, the horse was captured because it was wounded, and the vet had been taken care of. And this really beautiful person, Lisa, she adopted the horse and now had a really good life. And she was amazed that she'd never noticed like how shallow how the rib cage wasn't moving.
Yeah. So
if the ribs cannot expand, then you cannot have a bending through the rib cage.
Exactly. I was going to say.
The ribs have to like expand on one side and contract a little bit on the other side, compress a little bit. So if there's no space, so the rib cage is a very important part. So if you want to have a true bending through the whole horse, the neck should not bend more than the rib cage, which is sometimes minimal.
Yes.
And what I see a lot is with this academic or straightness training, they hold the cavison at the nose and they pull the nose in and they break at the neck. And they think they're doing shoulder in or something.
Yeah. But really, they've lost.
I always tell them, let go of the head. Let go of the head.
Totally.
The head it's like the balancing end of the stick being the spine, and the head. If a horse goes on a sharp turn in liberty and the body falls in vertically, then the head goes out to balance so they won't fall. So if you're holding the head, you're losing a lot of information. And B, you are depriving the horse of their balancing tool.
Yes. Yes.
So first you have to observe the horse. How imbalanced is the horse? Because every horse is crooked, like has their natural asymmetry, like us human.
Absolutely.
And then when you have been able to help the horse, then I will at some point guide the head. If I, for instance, want a little bit more collection, or then I will look at the position of the head. But the position of the head basically changes when you shift the weight to the hind legs, and they are able to bend the hind legs. So it's not only shifting the weight back, it's also using the spring of the hind legs.
Yeah.
So when the hind legs, the whole hindquarters go down, automatically the head comes up. And then if they go over the spine, then you have this nice posture. You cannot force the posture with the head, putting the head in a certain position. It has to come from the body.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know that there's some interesting things going on in the world in terms of forcing the head into various positions. We won't get into it. That's a Pandora's box, but you know, that sense of, you know, thank you, Lucie, for sharing that, because it is so critical to have, you know, the mobility present and the freedom of that horse to move and balance, so that they can find the spring in the hind end, and, you know, helping them along with that process. You know, Brienne and I had a conversation the other day about pelvises, and, you know, how often there is stuff coming up in the pelvis, the sacroiliac joints, or within the pelvis itself. That we can actually help our horses with. So, you know, this, I definitely want to chat again, because I know that there's much more to all of this that we can get into, and ways that we can help. And, you know, my recommendation for anybody who can is to go and work with Lucie. I'm going to do so sometime soon. Because it just sounds really, really profound, and really for the horse, and that's what we're all about around here. So thank you, Lucie.
Before you were asking for like resources, like
I was gonna say, before we go, resources. Thank you for reading.
That was because of what you said. The posture. There's this book which is called Collection or Contortion by Gerd Heuschmann. He's German, and it has brilliant pictures in it. What like, for instance, a true bend or a false bend is, and about the thoracic sling, and what the difference is between a leg mover and a back mover, how when they go over the spine, and when they only use the legs and their spine is blocked. And it's, if you want to have more background information about how the biomechanics and the spine is influencing the horse, then I can recommend that one.
That's great. Yeah. I'm definitely buying that one, that's for sure. So thank you. Yes. Yeah. Any other resources, Lucie, that you really love?
The Masterson book is very, he has a book and a DVD. Okay. And it explains, it has a lot of pictures, and there are also some free videos on YouTube if you Google on Masterson Method.
Perfect.
So the nice thing about it is it's so easy.
Yes.
And because you always stay under the, how do you call it? The resistance. You always stay under resistance. If they brace, you go softer. You go softer. You go even softer, because the horse can only release tension in a muscle when it is relaxed. So the moment they brace, the muscle braces, you can't release anything anymore. So that means you can't hurt the horse.
Yeah.
It's nice to have some information about the spine and everything, but like the bladder meridian, anybody can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's a tool for everybody to be able to help the horse. I think Jim even did like a bladder meridian challenge one day, because he wanted the whole world, every horse to experience it at least once.
Oh, that's lovely. I look forward to maybe meeting him one day. Sounds like an incredible person. So That's awesome. Okay, Lucie. So I will list those resources below the podcast. So for anybody that's listening in, at wholehorse.ca at Lucie's podcast page, you can find those different resources. So Lucie, how do we find you? What's the best way to track you down?
Facebook or my website, which is, well, you can write as well, like my name, lucieklaassen.com. Yes. And that's also the name on Facebook. So
perfect.
I'm actually just, because I almost have 5,000 friends, so then I can't accept anymore. So I made a business page.
Okay.
So it's Lucie Klaassen, Balanced Rider and Horse, but and I will be adding some stuff on that.
Fantastic. You're just too popular, my dear. That's amazing. You've been traveling around the world, meeting incredible people.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I never thought this would happen. Like when I started my company. And,
well, I'm so glad it has.
UK next week, and then after that to Austria again, and it's cool.
Well, congratulations. Thank you for the work you're doing in the world. We all appreciate it. And I know that the people tuning in are probably like, ooh, I want more. So go to Lucie's web page and things to learn more about her and the work that she's doing. And Lucie and I are so grateful for all of you that are tuning in. We know that time is of the essence these days, so we appreciate you taking an hour out of your day and listening. And we hope that this helped you today. So thank you, Lucie, for being here.
Yeah, thank you again. Who knows what this will lead to,
right? Who knows? The world's our oyster. Absolutely. I hope something amazing. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks again for inviting me, Alexa.
You're so welcome. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Lots of good stuff to come.